Hey guys, this is Jeff Stanek with Figured Out Baseball. Got a really good Figured Out Baseball podcast today for you. We're being joined by Steve Appel, who is the head coach and athletic director at the University of the Southwest, an NAIA school in Hobbs, New Mexico. I'll give you a little background on Coach Appel before we jump into questions with him. And it's a good one today because we're getting to talk to an athletic director in addition to a baseball coach, which I think is kind of cool in an area that I've kind of wanted to get into a little bit. He's from Socorro, New Mexico. He played collegiately at Fort Scott Community College, a junior college in Fort Scott, Kansas. He finished his playing career at the University of Bridgeport, a Division II school in Bridgeport, Connecticut. He started his coaching career at the University of Bridgeport, where he was there from the spring of 2007 through the spring of 2009. That 2009 team finished with a 3.25 team ERA, which was good enough for sixth in the country. He got his master's degree while at the University of Bridgeport in counseling, which is something that, again, we might get into in a little bit just because it's an interesting major and something I'm sure that he uses as a baseball coach. In 2010, he was an assistant coach at Oklahoma Panhandle State, a Division II school, obviously in Oklahoma. And then after 1 year, he took over the head coaching duties at Oklahoma Panhandle. He was the head coach there from 2011 through 2014. In June of 2014, he was hired to be the head coach at the University of the Southwest, where he's been since. At the University of the Southwest, he's compiled 125 wins. The 2019 team won 30 games. That was the third most in school history and the most in 15 years, most since 2004. He has overseen at the University of Southwest the largest donation in school history to the baseball program, which was used to build and remodel baseball facilities, such as they got a new indoor hitting facility, they got an upgraded playing surface, a new fence, renovated grandstands, new backstop, padding, new netting, a lot of good stuff happening on the playing field. Off the field, the team has had a 3.0 GPA or better each of the last 3 years. Really good stuff that Coach Appel has going on at the University of Southwest. And Coach, we sincerely appreciate being on the podcast today.
Good morning, Jeff. Thank you.
So typically, I like to start with something from the bio that stands out, and there are several places I'd like to start with you, or I could start with you, but the first one is just kind of curious how a New Mexico native who played in Kansas ended up finishing your career in Connecticut and beginning your coaching career there as well.
Everyone always asks that question, and the honest answer is at a very early age, I knew I wouldn't be on SportsCenter, playing. So for me, it was more about the experience of seeing the country and seeing something different that I wasn't used to. And actually, my parents are both from northern New Jersey. So, an opportunity came, to go up to Connecticut and play, and I went up there to visit, and it was something that was different. It was something that I was intrigued to, and it's where I finished up and where I started my coaching career. So it's definitely a place that I haven't been back in many years. But Coach Anquillari, who took me in as a player, I still talk to him on a regular basis. He's still a big role model for myself, and it's a program that I've always been part of programs that were in the rebuilding process, and that was another one there, and it was fun to be a part of something that I think is still going on over there right now. So that's how the short end of the story of how I got there. It was again, I was closer. I got to see some family that I didn't really get to see on a regular basis. I got to hang out with my cousins, which is being out in New Mexico was really tough. Maybe you see them once every 3-4 years, but it was nice to be able to have Thanksgiving over at their house rather than being on campus by myself. So it definitely was all about the experience for me.
When you were looking out there, being that it was so far from home, although you had family there, so close by, but even though you're moving pretty far across the country, going to a school that you probably didn't know anything about before you started the recruiting process, what about that school or the coaching staff or what you heard from them made you believe that was the right fit for Steve Appel to finish your playing career?
I've always been a big believer in meeting somebody face to face and getting a good read on them. Coach Hank, I mean, he played the corners. I was a corner. What he spoke about, from a hitting aspect, that was intriguing to me. And he just seemed like a coach that cared, and he seemed like a coach that, believed in what I could do, and I guess that's the hard part. And I guess that's what I've kind of transitioned as being the coach now is, you see things in kids and you just want to be honest with them. But there was things that I believe that he could do for me, not even on the baseball field, but just in life. And, it worked out. I mean, it's always how I've been. I even recruit that way. I want kids to be able to see campus. It was important for me to take the 28-hour, long haul over there to see the campus and see the people. But it's just a general, idea about the campus. I mean, it's right on the Long Island Sound. It's so you have the water there. The other intriguing part was that we got to play in an independent, baseball stadium. At that time it was the Bridgeport Bluefish, and I don't think they're playing there anymore. But being able to play in a stadium like that, to finish up your career it's pretty cool. Back then, that was, it was much different than now. Now you have all these turf fields and this money going into things, but back then it was, we had a little practice field on the Long Island Sound, but our home games were in an independent baseball, stadium. It was pretty neat, pretty interesting.
That's pretty cool. And I know that there are a number of baseball teams that do that, college baseball teams that share with some sort of a pro team. I know in my area there are several teams. Penn State, well, I think Penn State just dropped their affiliation actually, but Penn State and West Virginia both played at pro parks that they shared with short season teams that
Right.
Obviously the short season teams don't start their season until after the college season's over. That's a really cool thing to be able to play in a stadium like that, I think, and it just brings a whole different level of atmosphere.
Sure.
What did your experience in the Northeast, what did you take from that as far as just maybe any lessons you learned on the baseball field, or just from the coaches, or just from being in a cold weather environment compared to where you are now? Any lessons that you learned from that, or any takeaways from that are still kind of live with you as a head coach now, coaching in a much warmer climate, just a much different baseball environment altogether?
Yeah, from a baseball aspect, you have to get pretty creative. Again, the cold weather is something that, I don't miss it. I don't miss the cold weather, not one bit. But from a throwing aspect, you've got to be able to long toss into a net. You've got to rehab your body a different way. There's so many elements that go into it. It's bundling up if you have a chance to go outside and throw without there being 12 inches of snow on the ground. You bundle up and you learn how to long toss, and you just learn how to be creative. It has its challenges, but then again, at the same time too is your season is shorter. We wouldn't usually go down to Florida until probably later February, early March. So your season was condensed into 2.5 months, theoretically. So, if people can do that out there, people should be able to do that anywhere. Here you take what you learn there from a creative mindset and put it to play. So I think we have, any Southern team will have the advantage over a Northern team any day because they're outside more and they're playing more. So again, it was a little bit of a challenge, and that was kind of, I guess, the thing that I always enjoyed was you always love proving people wrong, and especially when I got into coaching out there, and that's why overseeing the pitching staff out there is, we could always hit out there, but, our pitching staff wasn't there yet. That was something that I really wanted to strive to make that university better, was if we could pitch it, we should be able to win a lot more games. And again, it was doing all the things I said. We got very creative. We used the pool that was inside the recreation center. I mean, we ran, inside the water. We didn't swim. So we trained our bodies differently. We were able to long toss into nets and really focus in. That's the hard thing, is that when you're not outside and you're not playing, it's really hard to fine tune all those small details that you really have to fine tune in order to play somebody. So a lot of challenges. The lifestyle is quicker out there. I don't think people sleep out there. So I do enjoy that aspect of being out here. Is that 6, 7 o'clock, the town definitely quiets down a little bit, and I don't have to sit in rush hour traffic. I lived 14 minutes away from campus. In my last year there, and some days it would take me 45 minutes to get to school. And I said, man, this is brutal. So I don't miss that. I don't miss the traffic. I don't miss the cold. But there are a lot of things that I took away from the Northeast that are still instilled in me to this day.
You said that you have wound up being a part of rebuilding teams almost everywhere that you've been. Is that something that is just you're naturally attracted to, or is that kind of coincidental?
I love it. I think that's what's instilled in me. Again, starting off with Bridgeport with the staff, that was my big thing is I wanted to get the staff, on an upward trend. The challenge at Oklahoma Panhandle, the facilities when I got there, absolutely terrible. The team, the program, the demeanor, wasn't in great shape. And obviously USW, when I first got here, it wasn't on an upward trend either. It's something that I've loved being a part of. I love the challenge. Even when I first started at Fort Scott, my first semester there, I got to play for Coach LaRoche, who was, big time, ex-major leaguer who was known for the lob pitch. But it was a program that wasn't very successful until we were there for a couple of years and seeing the trend, go up. So it's something that I've just been a part of. Not because it's by coincidence, just because I enjoy embracing challenges. I enjoy, people doubting, the places that I've been, people doubting me. I'm an old school blue collar type of guy. My father, he taught me well at a young age, and I worked a lot, in the construction world. My father's an electrical contractor. And, he just taught me how to work. And he kind of instilled that stuff in me is, everybody will always doubt you. And that's life is that you have to embrace that and work to strive to be a better person, be a better man, be a harder worker. Because, all those things, you can have all the talent in the world, and you've seen a lot of talented places, but they just can't put the wins out there. Well, it's because of the ethic, it's the work ethic. So it's something that I enjoy, being a part of. People always joke, hey coach, what happens if, someone were to give you a turf stadium and this and that? And I said, I don't know. I enjoy cutting grass. I enjoy edging fields. Some sort of me says I might be bored. I've never been in a program that is fully funded. And, even now as an athletic director, there's ways to do things. There's always ways to beat the system in the positive way, not cheating the system, but beating the system. You just got to work hard. And I'm a worker. I show up early to work. I leave late. I'll be the first person with a rake and a shovel in my hand. If that's what sort of leader I'm supposed to be, then I'm going to do it. So, I enjoy it. I don't know what it's going to be like, in 15 years. Maybe I will get to a program that maybe has some more success, but I think that'll be a little different. I don't know if I'd enjoy it as much. So, I enjoy the challenges in life.
I think that's such an interesting thing, and I love talking about it because that's the kind of coach that I was. I didn't necessarily want to seek out, as an assistant especially, I didn't necessarily want to seek out a rebuilding program just because sometimes you don't always know what you're getting into as an assistant. I wanted to be, my first couple of jobs, I wanted to go to a winning program. I wanted to win from that, or learn from them. I wanted to just figure out how to do things right and how to have success in a program. But once I caught on with a coach that he and I ended up coaching at several schools together, and we took over multiple teams that sort of needed to be rebuilt, and I got to a point where, I loved it. I really loved it, and I wanted to do it. And now if I were to go back and coach again, I think I would be like you. If I decided to get back into college coaching, I don't know that I would. I think I'd be more eager to either start a program from scratch or to, go somewhere that's really struggled and turn them into a winner, because I think I could do it. I think I've got, an idea of how to do that. But on your end, like, what is the recipe to do that? You've mentioned hard work for you, but what about like for your assistant coaches and for your players? What is the blueprint? What is your plan? What are some absolutes when you take over a program that is in that condition? Like, if for us to turn this around, this needs to happen with the players, this needs to happen with the coaching staff, with recruiting, whatever it is. Like, what is it for you that sort of is the blueprint for this?
Sure. I think in life, everyone, and especially in coaching, everyone always looks at the negatives, right? Everyone just points out the negatives, but no one wants to talk about the positives. And I think it starts with that is that no matter where you're at, there's always something good about that place. So for me, it's finding kids that want to be here and enjoy being here. And just like coaches, it's, I've done really well here at USW with having coaches that come in here as grad assistants. I mean, Coach Giroux, who's been with me for now the last handful of years, I mean, he came in as a GA and now he's my full-time assistant. And I think what I've tried to instill here is I've got a bunch of coaches that want to be here and they want to improve the school and they enjoy being here. Just like myself, when I first got here, everyone said, "Oh, you'll never be able to do this. You'll never be able to do that. You'll never be able to do this." Well, you're wrong. If you have the right mindset with anything that you do, you can do that. And this starts with the kids. It's when I first got here to USW, we had a handful of kids that didn't like being here. And I said, well, why do you want to be here if you don't want to be here? And I always use this expression. The kids, they always, they call them Appelism. And I'm sure kids have written books, which is fine. But we always tell them, hey, if you don't want to be here, there's the gate. Anytime you can walk out that gate and there's no hard feelings. We want kids that want to be here for the right reasons. And that's really it, is that you find the kids that want to be here, the coaches that want to be here. You surround yourself with people that want to help you. And I think no matter where you go, you can build. Just like at Panhandle. I mean, odds were against us. And I've learned a lot from Panhandle State, just because that was a place when I first started that we literally had nothing. We had 1.5 full scholarships. We were a Division II school competing in the Heartland Conference with St. Mary's and St. Ed's, perennial powerhouses. And when I first got there, it was, let me bring in some guys, but then I would realize that's when it clicked is, wait a minute, I've got to be able to groom kids, and I've got to be able to have kids that want to be here. Because, again, Panhandle was out in the middle of nowhere. Closest Walmart was 10 minutes away. There wasn't anything to do. So you wind up giving the kids something to do and giving them something to be proud of. And again, I brought in, I think my second year there, I brought in probably about 25, 28 freshmen. And I was real upfront with them. I said, you guys are going to get your butts kicked, but you're going to learn together. You're going to grow together. You're going to mature together, and you're going to start to build this place. And, obviously we started competing more. I truly think if I would have stayed there, that team probably would have been, an above 500 team by the time those kids were seniors. You started to see things click. And, again, you always learn lessons from things that have gone on. It's not something that's easy. But, again, I always tell our kids this. A man is someone that confronts problems. They don't run away from problems. There's always things that are going to happen to you in life in a negative way. It's our jobs as men to overcome that adversity in life. And that was, we had less talented kids, kids that were probably overlooked in high school, just like myself. and we've done it here as well. And again, we haven't won, as many games as we have here at USW based on solely on talent. We've found kids that want to be here, want to build this program, want to build it within, just like our facilities. It's not people coming here and doing the work for us. It's us welding up fencing. It's us pouring concrete, on our backstop, and it's us, pouring concrete in our bullpens. It's us that have done the work. And to me, that means a whole lot more than someone just giving you something. So, in life, nothing's ever just given to you. It's all earned. So, that's what it takes. It's really hard. It's tough. And, sometimes there's a lot of heartaches. There's more, I always tell our kids, there's more bumps in the road than there are paved alleys. And that's the truth. I don't see any garbage truck going down an alley that's paved. They're always going down on a dirt road. So, and it's got bumps and rocks and holes and craters, and it. So, if you can have your team that understands it and have a coaching staff that understands it, you can build it.
I love that. I love the analogy and love just the way that you talk to your players. I think that's, that's unique, and I don't think there's a lot of guys that do what you do and do it how you do it. And, again, just the way you talk with your players, things like that are just really interesting to me. I apologize for some of the background noise, but we got a snowstorm today in Pennsylvania, and where I normally record my podcast, we've got some plows that are nearby, so I'm just going to move somewhere else. I hope you'll stick with me as I'm moving around here. But no, one of the things that I wanted to ask is that as you're recruiting guys, recruiting players to places that haven't traditionally won or haven't won recently, and you're there as a new coach trying to really kind of start something, not necessarily start something new, but really kind of start something from scratch in a way, and you're trying to do some things that have not been done before or haven't been done recently in these at these schools. So I guess one of my questions for you is, when you're at a school like you have been, where you just don't have a whole lot going on there, you haven't had a whole lot of success, and again, you're trying to start something new and do some things that haven't been done before. What exactly are you selling these players? Like, what are you saying to get some players in there? Because obviously you can't turn it around without some level of talent. So what exactly are you saying to these players to attract some guys that you feel like you can win with when you're sort of at the beginning stages of what you call a rebuild?
Well, I think with anything, everybody always just tries to sell a vision, right? When you're a car salesman, you just try to sell the car. You just see, you get to see what's right in front of you, but you never get to see what's inside of it. You never get to see what kind of transmission it really is. The car salesman just tells you, hey, this is what it looks like. You got leather interior, and you got a nice big screen on the dashboard for a radio station. They don't really go into the nuts and bolts of it. The one thing that I pride myself in is that I don't lie to kids. I'm upfront and honest with them. I tell them, hey, this is the way it is. You're either going to like it, or you can walk out this door and you hate me, and that's perfectly fine. But I will not sugarcoat it, and you can't sell a vision if you're not upfront and honest. And, I love having parents in here because, again, we tell them, ever since I've started coaching, I have our principles, what we believe in. We don't have a whole lot of rules here. I know that to some that may sound a little, what do you mean you guys don't have rules? Well, we don't. We have our principles. We have our foundations. And to me, it's your faith in your family is number one. 2 is your education. 3 is baseball. And 4 is your social life. And that's the last thing I'm worried about. If you can prioritize your time in that manner, I think you can build. So the vision starts with the understanding of this is how we get there. Everyone always wants to get to that end, but they don't want to put in that work in between. And that's the issue with the world we live in. Everyone wants to everyone wants to make a six-figure salary. Well, you don't get a six-figure salary by not making, starting off at 20, 30, 40, and 50, and then eventually getting there. So with everything, it's work, and getting the kids to believe in that, getting the parents to believe in that. I think, we do a good job of selling to the kids who we are as human beings. I'm a person that leads by example. I'm not a coach that leaves here and goes out to the bars and hangs out at restaurants in town. I live a pretty simple life because at the end of the day, my job is not about my paycheck. It's not about wins and losses. My job is I'm here for kids, and I try to do everything I can for kids. And I think when parents hear that, I think they like where their kid is going to be coming to school because they have a direction in life, not just on the baseball field, but in life. And I think, I've always said it, you can always win games by putting the right people out there. And, coaches do have their favorites, 100%. We have some very talented kids in my mind, but those are still the kids that get good grades in the classroom. Those are the kids that show up early. They help set up the field. They take it down. They're up there picking trash with you on weekends that you don't have anything going on. They are the kids that will literally run through that wall for me because they know I do the same damn thing. And that's how you wind up bringing these kids here. And now that we've got a good foundation, these kids that come here on visits, we work them out, we show them around, we talk to them in the office. But then usually we like to bring kids in here, that on days that we enter squad, and we say, hey, we want you to hang out with the guys. We want you to talk with them because they are the best recruiters. It's not they heard everything they wanted to hear out of me, but you get to hear it from the players that are within. Because again, if I'm lying to you, these kids will they'll tell you, oh no, coach, he's full of it. This is what we do. But they hang out with the kids, and I think that's what it's supposed to be. If they enjoy it here, they want to be here. They'll help the next kid to get here. So it's a family. It's you call it what it is. It's one big family. So it's to be able to get kids here and have talent, it takes everybody, not just myself, not just my coaches, but also the players, and the people that are around. It's people, the staff and faculty here on campus, they know me. They know what I'm about. They know I can be a hard person sometimes, and I am a very hard guy to play for, but yet a very easy guy to play for. But they can tell you exactly what I believe in and what I preach. So that's how I think that's how we get kids here. It seems to have worked. We'll continue it. Now the hard process is we've gotten to the point where we've had a little bit of success. Now it's maintaining that success. That's where it gets even tougher.
It's curious to me that in 2021, when baseball at the youth level is so much, and I say youth level, I just mean, before college, high school and below, is so much about statistics and numbers and technology and just everything else that youth baseball has become about. But you are still selling, two of the top things that you're still selling with your program are faith and family.
Absolutely. Well, in my opinion, nobody can ever come between your faith and what you believe in, and your family. Faith is something that we don't teach here. It's something that we believe that everybody is entitled to their own opinions and beliefs and their foundations. I was raised, Roman Catholic, and I always make the joke here. We are the only private Christian school in the state of New Mexico. And I always tell everybody here, you can make it as religious as you want or non-religious as you want. I'm Catholic, and this place will never tell me how to be, when to be, who to be. And I firmly believe that. I think that's what makes America great is people are individuals. People get to believe in what they believe in. So I never come in between faith. I never try to tell the kids what they believe in, what they should believe in, how to believe in it. And of course with the family is listen, I tell these kids that yes, I'm their dad away from home. I'll take care of them, nurture them along, I'll push them, all that other good stuff. But at the end of the day, I can't come in between our kids and their parents. Their parents are so important to them. Their grandparents are so important to them. There's things that I can never touch. The only thing I can do is hopefully be a part of their family. Because that's ultimately what we're doing, is welcome them into my family. So those are things that any coach should never come in between, in my opinion. But again, that's my belief, right? Those are two areas that man, they're really tough. Nothing is important. Nothing is more important than those two items right there.
Do you think kids still want that today? I mean, do kids? I mean, maybe I don't know if it's different than it used to be or not, but do kids still respond to that? Is this still something that, again, when a lot of other schools are going to sell, we have Rapsodo and TrackMan and Blast Motion and this and that, like a team that talks about faith and family, and those are two of the core values of this program. Do kids still want that stuff right now?
Yes, they just don't ever ask about it. Because again, you're right. We live in a world that's very materialistic at times. We like to see the things that are right in front of us. But they don't like to. People don't understand that there's a lot of things that we need to be instilled in us. And again, you can have all the Rapsodos and the Blasts and all this stuff. It's great. Now I'm not saying that they're not good things, but you still need to be a good person, have good work ethic to be able to improve those measurables, don't you? And because you just can't show up and get on a TrackMan and swing and not understanding what you're doing and not believing those other things and just say that you're going to get better. That's just, again, the kids, they want that. They want to be at a place where they can feel a part of a family. They know that when they come in this office that we care about them. And to me, I think parents really want that. Because again, we live in a very materialistic world, and they don't want to be lied to. Again, every kid that comes to campus, they just want to see the weight room, the field, where they be living, eating. They don't want to see all the other things that go into it. And that's why it's important that we instill those other things are the most important things of their lives. And that's honestly what we tell them. The things that you guys think that are the least important things in your lives will probably be the most important things of your lives. And that's a hard concept to understand. So
it absolutely is, but a great message, and I'm sure that maybe it takes players even after, several years after they've graduated for it to really sink in, but those types of things that coaches do when players are on campus, I think make a difference for the rest of the kids' lives, really, as long as the player's willing to listen while they're there. It might not really sink in, or they might not get it until later in life. Maybe it's because there's a certain family situation that comes up, or they have kids of their own, or whatever it may be. But someday, a lot of players will look back and just say, that was right. I mean, coach was right on. That's the truth. Like what he was telling me was, I didn't believe it at the time, or didn't think it was that big of a deal, but man, he was right on.
Yeah, our guys can tell you they don't want to believe everything that comes out of my mouth right away, and that's okay. There's a method to my madness in my head. We give them hidden messages all the time, and we always tell them the quicker you guys can figure this stuff out, the quicker you guys will be successful in this field. But it's always fun, and here's the thing too. I think a lot of coaches don't talk about is we hear a lot of success stories about the kids that stay through the program, finish with the program, and then they come back and obviously they invite you to their wedding and see their first child be born and stuff like that. No one talks about the kids that leave their program. And here's something that I think about, and these are the warm stories, I guess, is I had a kid that was here, my first 2 years at USW, and he maybe didn't get enough his playing time as what he wanted, didn't really believe in a lot of the things that we were doing. Well, he came back, he's back in town, this last summer, and he said, "Hey, Coach, I'm in town. I just wondering if I can come by the field and see." And I said, "Sure, absolutely." And in my opinion, I don't think there should be any grudges in life. Kids are kids, and they're going to take their past, and hopefully they learn from their past. But we were out there on the field, and he goes, "Coach," he says, "a couple of years ago, I just didn't believe you." He says, "But coming out here, you always told us that we were going to get to that 30-game mark. You always told us that, we'd have a new backstop and we'd have an indoor." And he's like, "I didn't believe you." He's like, "But coming out here now, I'm seeing it with my own eyes." And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Coach, I just want to say I'm sorry." And I said, "Sorry for what?" I said, "I don't think there's anything to be sorry about." And he says, "Well, I'm just sorry that, I didn't believe." And I said, That's not the point. I said, the point is that, you've learned from a lot of things. You're understanding some things. So hopefully some of the things that I taught you that you didn't believe in a couple of years ago, you take with you now, and that you can establish that within your own life. And, but I thought that was pretty cool because, everybody always just talks about the success stories about the kids that make it within, but no one talks about the kids that leave. And, it's something that, again, we have kids that leave our program all the time, and just like everybody else, we want them to be successful in life. So
when you impact guys that leave the program, I think that means you're doing some things right. I'm curious, with this message that you sell to kids at multiple programs in different places you've been, what kind of player do you end up with? With the message that you sell, and when the kid comes on campus and you kind of give them your core values and you talk to them about, like, hey, you're gonna work hard here, and you no guarantees of playing time, I'm sure, and you just kind of give them a realistic idea of what your program is going to be like. What kind of player do you wind up with? Talent-wise, not only talent-wise, but just personality-wise. What sort of personalities do you end up with on the team with the message that you give recruits?
There's basically a blue-collar kid. We 100% do not go after the kids that have been given everything in their life. We recruit a lot of kids that come from small towns that don't have the money to maybe, experience the club ball and all that extravagant stuff, like a lot of these kids from bigger cities. We look at kids that are athletes, but overall, the kids that we believe that we have here are the kids that just work, and we tell them, this is where you can get to, but you've got to do X, Y, and Z to get there. So really, that's the type of kid that we have here overall, is just a kid that's willing to buy into working, and nothing will be handed to him. Again, we have kids that come in very talented as high school kids, and we've had some pretty good junior college kids that transferred in, but they still want to get better. I don't know a whole lot of kids that come in and say, Coach, I just want to stay the same, so we get a lot of those kids that we see some things and we're like, man, this kid can really do something for us. I mean, it's just like, the kid that we had, last handful of years, JJ Cruzel. I mean, this kid's 5'6", and, we seen him at a showcase, and he was 82, 83, a little short, quick arm action, but, he wanted to increase his velo, and he wanted to be a dude, at a small school, and, he put in the work to be a dude at a small school. Again, he was a kid that worked really quick, and he wound up being an 84 to 86 mile an hour guy, and threw strikes, and I think that's the thing that we look for, is just kids that want to come in here and work, and kids that want to come in here and compete, and kids that want to continue to build. So, again, every coach, they want to go after the 94 to 96 mile an hour guy. They want to go after the hitter that, is 96 to 102 exit velo. They want an infielder that throws the ball 94 miles an hour across the infield. Yeah, I'd take those kids, but, they still got to be kids that want to come in here and work. So,
and not all of them do, and especially I think the guys that get with the showcase world that we're in now, sometimes the bigger profile of the kid, the more that he gets treated like royalty in high school. And I'm sure it's a little bit of a wake-up call. And I'm sure if that kid's going to Vanderbilt, he's not walking into a program where he's going to be babied. He's going to walk into Vanderbilt and he's going to work his ass off. He's going to have to. But I'm wondering almost if that kid has a harder time than some of the kids that you're talking about that are a little under-recruited or from smaller towns, didn't get to play as much travel ball or on the big-time teams or whatever, wondering if those guys almost have an easier time transitioning just because that's the world they've always lived in, as opposed to, the guy that goes to a Vanderbilt or a Clemson or a Texas or whatever that's always been like the dude and has been in the showcase circuit, going to national showcases, being told how good he is his whole life, and all of a sudden he's got to work harder than he's ever thought about working every day at a program where he's surrounded by guys who are pretty much as good as he is. He's going to have first-rounders on the team, on the field with him, and first-rounders in his conference. And I wonder if sometimes those guys that you're recruiting, just because they've had to work a little bit harder their whole life, maybe have an easier time even transitioning into a program like you run.
I think so. I do, I think some of the kids with the very high, talent levels still succeed in life. Don't get me wrong, but the kids that we bring in here again, I think it's set up to see which kids survive those programs, which kids make it through those programs. Because just like here, I'm sure the Vanderbilts and the Clemsons, they have kids that leave all the time, and you're right. The big thing that I think we preach here is our retention rate. Because if we feel as though if we can retain kids, we're successful. We're doing the right things with them. I think yes, programs are built on some of the kids that wind up leaving, and that means you're doing the right thing. However, I think if you get kids to stay within your program, those are the kids that are transitioning, to become bigger, stronger, quicker, and they're understanding that process. They're just not getting by with their talents. So yes, that's a tough one, because I don't want to put the kids with some very high-end talent, down. But yeah, I feel like we have a special kid. I feel like we have a kid when they come in here and when they leave here, and we always tell them, every kid will come into this program as a boy. What we want them to do is leave as a man. And we feel as though if you can leave as a man, you're ready to get out into the real world to be successful in life. And so you're right. I think there is a difference between us and a big Division I school, because we are directing them to get ready for the real world, I think, a little quicker. We're really upfront and honest with them. We tell them that, hey, the baseball path after college is probably non-existent, and that's okay. Just as long as you're the person that stops that baseball and someone else doesn't stop it for you. So I think you go to some of these premier Division I schools, and their attention span is probably a little bit more on what they need to do in order to get drafted, and that's fine too. There's nothing wrong with it. It's got to be done a different way here, because again, it's just a different atmosphere. It's a different school. It's different dynamic.
Coach, why do you recruit junior college players? What's the benefit of doing that? Does it bring like instant maturity? Is it guys that are ready to get in and compete right away? Is it just a way to fill holes when, it would be a lot more difficult maybe to fill that hole with an incoming freshman? Like, what's the appeal to recruiting junior college players?
They play more games. Plain and simple. I mean, yes, the maturity, they're 2 years, they got 2 years underneath their belt. They've adapted to this game. They should be able to come in here and pick up the schemes a whole lot quicker than a high school kid. Just because a high school kid will come into a college setting and, the game's a whole lot quicker. It's sped up on them. It's just different. So, I mean, the junior college kid, yes, they're more mature. They've been through it. They're probably a little bit tougher. They've got to see what it's like to be an athlete from August to August. and they've played more games. A junior college schedule is, listen, I played junior college baseball. I don't know if I could ever coach junior college baseball, but I played it, and, man, you play a lot. And, again, we always talk about the better we are, we think we need to play more. Just like here, we try to inter-squad as much as we can because there's nothing like being in between those lines and having somebody throw a pitch to you, you feeling that ball and throwing it across with a runner getting down the line. You can work on all the team stuff you want, but if you're not doing in live action, to me, it's kind of pointless, and that's, again, we're in that predicament right now with our COVID restrictions in New Mexico, and we didn't really have team practices in the fall, so we're trying to play as much right now, just to get ready for when we get to play somebody, outside of our school colors. So, recruiting junior college kids, about maturity, it's about playing time. They get to play more. So, and they get to lead a little bit more too. They know some of the tools. They can help guide those young kids that we brought into this program.
Is there a limit to the number of junior college players you like to bring in for any reason, whether it's because just you don't want that much turnover, or you prefer to have a guy in the program for 4 years as opposed to 2? Do you limit it? I mean, do you just recruit JUCO guys when you need to fill holes, or do you go into each season saying, like, almost every season we're going to recruit 3, 4, 5 junior college players or whatever? Do you have an idea about that, or is that just like kind of a needs-based thing?
Yeah, I would say, everything is always need-based, but, I would say with the dynamic that we have here and the structure that we have here at USW, I would say that it's probably a third. A third of our recruiting class every year is junior college kids, and 2/3 is high school kids. I'm still a big believer in developing kids. We want to see, you're right, we don't want to see as much turnover, but however, if we bring in that good mix, we should have a good mix throughout all of our classes, here on campus. To me, it's a whole lot less about turnover, and it's more about graduating. So I don't tend to look at that as much. The nice thing about junior college kids is usually you get them here and they're going to be here. They're not going to leave. So, again, there's an equation there, sure. I don't want all just junior college kids, no. And that belief there is we want high school kids that want to come in here and work. I think if you bring in too many junior college kids, then you're right, you have too much turnover too quick. And I don't think you have a good mix of numbers within your classes. So a third is usually what we operate here at USW.
With everything that we've talked about a lot about the players and just kind of what you're selling to them. What about coaches? I know that programs don't get turned around just with the head coach and players. You've got to have assistants that are really driving this engine as well. And to hire those guys can't always be easy as well. I'm assuming that you don't have the best paying jobs on the planet. I'm assuming that you don't have really amazing things to sell them other than kind of the vision, again, that you talked about with your players. But what's your process, if you don't mind me asking this, just with hiring assistant coaches to make sure you're getting the right guy there? Like, how do you prepare them for what, a Steve Appel baseball program is like, to make sure that you're getting the right coaches, knowing that the right assistant coaches can make all the difference in the world between having a whole lot of success or having a mild amount of success, or, maybe things kind of falling apart because they don't do a good job recruiting. They don't do a good job of just kind of sticking with your plan. Maybe a guy has a good interview, but he doesn't really have the priorities, the vision, the sort of moral fiber that you instill in the team. How, as a head coach, do you circumvent that process and make sure that you're getting the right guys on the field to help coach your teams?
Well, again, here at USW, we have one full-time assistant, and then we have a couple GAs. So our GAs, we obviously we look at bringing in kids that or young men that want to get into this for the right reasons, But as far as, for me, it's all about loyalty. It's how well I treat them, and I think I get that in return. But just like recruiting kids, I'm upfront and honest with coaches. And yeah, I'm a hard guy to work for, but I'm an easy guy to work for. I just demand that they show up. When they're here, they do their job to the best of their abilities, and they leave. When they leave campus, they're good, active people in the community. I don't like headaches. But I think giving coaches responsibilities, but also giving them the freedom to be coaches as well. I'm not a head coach that sits here and says, you're going to do this, you're going to do that, you're going to do this. I enjoy, I have a great time, hanging out with my coaches as far as in the office, talking baseball and talking, everything. And I think by allowing them to feel accepted, and giving them some ownership on some things, and just like Coach Thoreau, he's been here for a handful of years. I had an assistant before that, Ethan Moffitt, who, man, that kid just worked his butt off, and again, I want guys that want to come in here and do the things for the right reasons. If I feel like they ever are starting to do things, for benefits of them, that's where I think it turns out not to be so good. But overall, we're a big family. And that's another big selling point we talk to the recruits about, is that, hey, us coaches, we have a good time sitting in here. Do we disagree on things? Absolutely, 100%. But I also listen to things. I take suggestions. And I also give suggestions and critique them as well in a positive way. But I want coaches to be able to fail. I know that sounds really harsh. We want people to fail. But in life, you're always going to fail. On a baseball field, you fail more as a player than you succeed sometimes. Where else can you be a Hall of Famer and be successful 30% of the time? So you want coaches to go through some of those battles, but I'm also a big believer. I want to teach them how to overcome those battles. But I give coaches ownership of what their responsibilities are. Coach Thoreau, big thing with him is his academics, and I've stressed how important they are to me. Again, every coach has the responsibilities on the field, but he's really taken ownership of the academic stuff because he's found out how important they are. And that's why the kids are here. They're here to get an education. So, but again, it's the loyalty factor. If any coach has good, loyal coaches, they will be successful. It's just a big, it's a position of cooperation. If you get coaches that cooperate and coaches that communicate, how can you not be successful? So,
if you have a coach who is teaching something that you don't believe is going to be successful, but the coach is really, he buys into it, or maybe it's something new that he wants to try. Maybe he's like, I really think this is going to be a better way for us to do it. And maybe you disagree, you don't think it's going to work, but you just, you said that you like these coaches to have an opportunity to try things and fail. At what point do you, as the head coach, do you ever step in and just say, let's just say it's not something extremely, extremely important. Maybe there's just like maybe it's the way they're gonna turn double plays at second base, or like how the second baseman is gonna turn a 4-6-3 or a 5-4-3. I'm sorry, a 6-4-3 or a 5-4-3. The second baseman's footwork, and you're just like, that's not gonna work. It's not how I think it's gonna work. How much leeway do you give these guys? Like, at what point do you step in as a head coach and say, if ever, at what point do you step in and say, look, I see what you're doing and what you're thinking, but I just don't think it's going to work. I don't want you to try it, or like I think you need to do it another way. Or how long into the season do you wait? Just say there's a hitting philosophy that maybe is new, or something new that a coach is trying, and how many games into a season do you stop and say, look, man, that's not working. Like, we got to go back to we got to do something different to change this around. How much leeway exactly do coaches have? How much time do they have to fail before you step in and say, time to change something here?
Well, I don't, for us, I don't think it gets there a whole lot, just because we talk about things, on a weekly basis before we go out and instruct. It's a good time to sit here and, again, I'll even tell the coaches why I'm doing certain things with certain people. But it doesn't really get there a whole lot on the field. Yes, there's always in this game, there's always new things to learn and new things to try, so I'm always open to it. But obviously it's to me, I think it's pretty simple. If it doesn't work, first couple times, I think it's time to scratch it and move on. So I think it's all about adapting. There's things that I want to try, and I myself have to critique what I'm doing to say, this really isn't working for him, but it is working for this other kid. So maybe we just keep doing it for this kid and change something for that other kid. So again, I think it even goes beyond that. I think in the hiring process of these coaches, if coaches are not asking what their beliefs are in certain things, then I don't think a head coach is doing their due diligence in that hiring process. So, again, there's so many ways to teach the game, but honestly, if they're teaching it the right way, I guess the simple way, I let them do whatever they need to do. I know it's really hard to understand, but again, I don't let them say, hey, you know what, Jacob, you got the outfielders, just do whatever you want. And then if it's not working 20 games down, then we got to change things. No, we usually talk about it before, so we have drill set stuff that day. I mean, we'll talk about it the week before and what we want to accomplish and how we got to accomplish it, and then we usually run with it. So we talk about a lot of that technique stuff before it's actually been taught. And I think that's where the coaches gain a lot of trust with me is they're okay bringing this stuff up and saying, what do you think, before it's being done.
And if you don't love it, if someone wants to do something, wants to try something, and you have maybe seen something else succeed, or maybe you've seen someone try that and it hasn't succeeded, are you having a conversation right then and there to say, I just don't think it's going to work, or at that point where you say, I haven't seen it work much, but go ahead and try it, see what happens?
Yeah, I'll do the second avenue, and never will I ever, while a coach is out there, instructing, if I see something I don't like, I don't ever, talk to them right then and there. Usually we'll talk about it the next day. And just like we would with a lot of other things, I think it's demeaning when a head coach really oversteps and kind of ridicules someone else in front of other people. So I try not to do that, at all. But again, we try lots of different things. I mean, that's the beautiful thing about this game is there's many ways of teaching so many different things. And mainly because I really believe in that we're not here to teach robots. You can't just teach one thing and one thing only to the entire team. I think there are certain things that work for some guys and there's certain other things that work for these other guys. So I think that coaches need to explore different things as well.
Very great. This is Steve Appel, everybody. He's the head coach at the University of the Southwest, an NAIA school in Hobbs, New Mexico. This has been a really enjoyable podcast, Coach. Is there anything that we did not talk about today that you want to add in at the end, or you want to wrap this up in any way? I just wanted to make sure that I touched on things that you wanted to touch on in this podcast.
Well, I think if people know me, I could probably talk for hours and hours and hours. So, maybe in the future there's a chance for another one. We can get into some other subject areas. And, I think the message that I want to send to other young coaches that are getting into this game, and this is something that I really firmly believe in, is you don't ever do this for yourself. My message clearly to everybody is that it's never about I. And I don't coach this game because of me. I don't coach this game ever for fame or fortune. We coach this game because we enjoy the game, we love the game, but B, because we love kids. And I think if we have that idea instilled in our brain, I think we'll be successful no matter the wins and losses on the field, but just in life. And I think that we need to get back on track with that in society as a whole. Especially looking at these times where kids are kind of, down in the dumps because they're not getting to play as much right now with maybe COVID and everything else that's going on in the world. I think there needs to be a lot of people that step up to be leaders and really start, doing things for kids and being a little bit of selfless individuals. So that's a big message that I've always spoke about with my coaches, my players is, you're never in this for yourself. The minute that you start doing things for yourself is the minute that you got to get out of this game.
What an awesome message, and a great message for young guys to hear. You know, young coaches, they a lot of times just have different priorities than they would probably have if they coach for another 10, 15, 20 years. You have different priorities, I think just a different frame of mind, different perspective when you get a little bit older. And to hear that message as a young coach from someone like yourself, I'm sure means a great deal. This is Steve Appel, everybody. Again, Coach, I want to just sincerely thank you for being here and being a part of this. I love the message that you have for players, for coaches. I love the path that you've taken, and this has been a very, very enjoyable hour for me.
Absolutely. Love every minute of it.